Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and these are Charter Moms Chats. And we've been going live to get families the information they need so they can make good choices about finding schools for their kids and also supporting their social emotional well-being during what's been a really unusual and challenging couple of years. And today we are talking about kindness and sort of its flip side, bullying and cyberbullying. And to talk about that, we have a very special guest. We have Maurine Molak, and she, with her family, founded the David's Legacy Foundation to honor her son and his brothers. And her team wrote a guest post talking about the David Molak Kindness Scholarship, and that's what we're going to focus on today. There's a link in the description of the video that will take you to that blog post. But I also want to emphasize, we've shared resources about David's Legacy Foundation on the blog in the past, and you can click through that blog post to get to the earlier blog post. It's got tons of resources about explaining what David's Legacy Foundation does, which is trying to end bullying, especially cyberbullying, and doing that through education and legal action and whatever means necessary, because we really need to protect our children, right?
Yeah, that's right, Inga. Thank you so much for having me today. We've spent the last 6 years since my son David died trying to help other families, and we're still trying to figure it out. There's a lot of need out there and kind of a grassroots effort, and we're so thankful to this community in San Antonio where we live. That they have just come alongside us and really helped us grow David's Legacy Foundation so that we can help more families in need.
Yeah. And so I gave kind of the short version, right, which is ending bullying and cyberbullying and using the means of legal action, education, legislation. So can you kind of elaborate on that and explain more, how David's Legacy Foundation is making an impact?
Sure. We look at everything that we do through the lens of the acronym PEACE. So we protect our young people from bullying and cyberbullying. We educate communities, and that could be like what we're doing right now. That could be students. It could be law enforcement. And we advocate for families in crisis. And we have partnered with 4 legal aid providers across the state of Texas, and we provide pro bono legal services to help families that are in need. The C stands for celebrate, which is one of the main reasons why we're here today, is we celebrate student initiatives and that are around kindness, inclusion, anti-bullying. And then the E is for empower, and we want to empower all of our students to recognize digital empathy and what it feels like to be on the other side of a screen, as well as taking care of themselves and understanding what self-care looks like.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. I remember from a neighbor getting a yard sign and, putting that in my yard and, and just, wanting to do something. And, yeah, I've seen like the little stickers that you can put on the back of your phone. That's like a reminder, to be kind when you're, reaching through your electronics, and that there's still a person on the other side. And it's been amazing to watch like the impact with like legislation and like David's law, and making sure that the law offers more protection to victims of cyberbullying. And y'all have just done a tremendous job, and I'm really grateful to be able to help with the education part and the celebrate part of the mission, through what we can do here. And so, speaking of celebrate, what's happening with the deadline of March 31st is the David Molak Kindness Scholarship. So I was wondering if you could talk more about the scholarship in particular, like what qualities do you want to, qualities of David's that you want to emphasize and recognize through the scholarship?
We just want kids to understand the power of kindness and the power of positive words, and how their words can impact for good in another person's life when they may be down and struggling. And just a few kind words can really mean a lot to somebody who is not having a good day. And so what we want to do with this scholarship, and this is actually our 5th year to offer these scholarships. Each year it grows. Super excited that this year we're able to open it up to charter schools across Bexar County. And so thank you for having me on today to be able to talk about that. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to hone in on these kids that not only are living daily about living their day, celebrating kindness and being kind to others, but have also maybe taken it to the next level and have started some type of initiative. Maybe it's like in the past, we've had winners of our scholarship who have done a suicide awareness walk. And we've had others who have started clothing closets for students in their school who may not have the means to afford a prom dress. And so there's a lot of different opportunities, and it can be something not elaborate. It could be something very simple. And it's more than just the initiative. It's why did you choose to do that? What made you inside want to be able to help that particular group of people? And then how did it impact you? And how did it impact the people that you were wanting to help? And so it's a 250 word essay, which is not very much. And so we just want to get a hint at what the person behind the initiative, what was really driving them to be able to do that. And our hope is that they will continue. If they're awarded one of these three, we're offering 3 scholarships so far this year. And actually last year we had over 100 people apply for the scholarship, and it was just open to public schools last year. And we put a post out there on Facebook, and we had 4 additional donors come forward and say, hey, I'll sponsor an extra scholarship since you've got so many worthy, young people that have applied for this. So we don't know what will happen this year, but there will be at least 3 $1,000 scholarships that we will be able to offer.
Yeah. And so it's very worthwhile to, for students who are, making these extra efforts to demonstrate kindness in their lives, these initiatives, and, thinking about how their words and their actions are impacting, and that's really the value of a scholarship program, is that it could have, we're all busy with our day-to-day lives, but this encourages people to stop and think think about people they know, think about what students they might want to nominate for this, right? So that's kind of how the process works, right? Is there's nominations, but there's also, I guess, self-nomination, right?
Yeah, there are. There's a young person, a high school senior that is going to college can nominate themselves. But yeah, what we have found is that a lot of times these kids that are out there doing these initiatives are not wanting to bring attention to themselves. And so we've opened it up to where a school personnel who knows what a young person has done in their community or their school and can nominate them for this scholarship. And we've awarded several of those who have come from school counselors who've nominated their student. And there's, like I said, there's a 250 word essay, and there's a few questions in there. And we have a scholarship committee made up of 5 people that read the scholarships and determine, there's a rubric. One of the main things that I'll tell everybody is if you follow the rules, you'll get a 5 on that first question, And so there's a series of questions that they'll ask, themselves as they're reading these essays to see if it meets the criteria.
Yeah, well, that's really helpful. That gives a sense. So I'm going to kind of recap some of the points you made. So, okay, so I'm going to put the link on the screen. So davidslegacy.org is the website. This is probably too long to read on the screen. Anyway, that's the specific URL for the scholarship. But you could, at davidslegacy.org, that can lead you to it. Also, in the description of the video, it'll take you to the blog post. The blog post has a link that will take you to the specific scholarship page. So, and then I guess through that website, that's how like an adult, like a counselor or a community member could nominate a senior that they're aware of. And it's focused on students who are graduating seniors at Bexar County public schools, whether it's a traditional public school in an ISD or if they're at a public charter school, they're eligible to be part of this process. And then, like you said, there's a set of questions and a 250 word essay that gives an insight into what acts they've done that demonstrate these values like kindness and compassion and inclusion. And then, like you said, it gets read by a scholarship committee, and then they have to narrow it down to at least three winners who would each get $1,000 that they can use towards their college education. And hopefully it serves as reinforcement for and validation for the work that they're doing to make the world a kinder place.
That's absolutely right. And we hope that they will continue that work as they go to college and through adulthood. And it's got us, we know the importance of kindness and how it can carry through. And we're hoping that the kids, our young people, will be kind online. We've had a lot of students who have applied for the scholarship in the past who have actually done online initiatives to spread kindness, which is a great way. It doesn't cost a lot of money for them to do that. And it has impacted thousands of people that they've been able to get to follow what they're doing online.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's encouraging to me. I mean, it's been a really tough time for it's been a tough time for many different groups of people, including teachers and counselors. Like they've had a really tough job, but for teenagers, like, in their short time on earth so far, a lot of it has been very atypical and very disrupted. And they haven't been able to do, like before we got on the air, we were talking about, what teenagers like to do. Like they don't want to sit around and be awkward. They want there to be like a game, a competition, like something to do. And they haven't been able to get together as much, or they've had to wear masks in some settings, and they had to do Zoom school for a while, and it's been a tough environment, I guess. So what are some things that you're hearing from from young people, from teachers and counselors, like from your board, community members, like how are children and teenagers responding to what's going on in the world?
Well, I think you hit it. It's been tough on everybody. I don't think that there's anyone out there that hasn't suffered in some few years. And in our young people, they've adapted for the most part. We're certainly seeing some increased mental health issues with our young people, and our suicide rates are up. The number of emergency room visits for mental health issues is up. And so we have a lot of work to do. And I think that we're going to see the repercussions from this pandemic for a really long time. But I do think that a lot of students have been able to adapt. I mentioned the one young girl that we gave the scholarship to last year, where she had the suicide walk, and it was supposed to be an in-person walk, and she ended up having to postpone it. And then finally, it got to the point to where she couldn't postpone it any longer because it was getting so late in the year that she ended up having to do a virtual walk, a walk where people did it on their own, and they submitted pictures, and it was lovely. It wasn't what she really wanted, but she adapted, and it worked out well. And she raised awareness for a very important topic that is affecting all of our young people. And so, I think for teachers and our administrators, they have had their hands full. There have been multiple crises that have, that come across their desk on a daily basis. And, we often have families that will reach out to us for help if their child's been the target of bullying or cyberbullying. And it could be that maybe they don't really need legal assistance, but they just need somebody to listen and to talk to. And that's what we're finding from a lot of the moms that call into us is it may not, they may also be in a mental health crisis because their child is suffering. And for all of us who have children, when our children suffer, we suffer right alongside with them. And so just having somebody that maybe has experienced or knows about the different education codes, the different resources that are available to them, just having that listening ear, you wouldn't believe the number of families that just said, I just needed somebody to talk to, and I just needed somebody that understood what I was going through. And so, just recently at David's Legacy, we've partnered with these additional legal aid providers, but we've also trained up a dozen or so legal aid assistants and paralegals across Bexar County who are helping take these intake calls. So they've been trained on all the education code. They know what the mental health resources are. They understand the dire situation that these parents are in when they reach out to us. And so we're able to provide help on a much larger scale, because we're not just helping Bexar County. David's Legacy Foundation helps across the state. And so we'll have people call us, and we actually even have people call us from outside of Texas. And unfortunately, we don't know their education code, but we can certainly give them general direction on where they should go to be able to seek help. But we do know that often a parent will say they don't feel like their school district is doing enough to address an issue. So we are able to provide them with some talking points, some questions to ask their administrators, and what they should expect in a situation. And it may not always turn out the way that we think that it will. And nobody really has any nobody polices school districts, and so we know that they're trying to do their best. And one of the things that I try to stress when I'm talking to administrators about David's Law and the subsequent legislation that we've passed, and why we've put those things in, why we advocated for that, and why they passed, why the legislature, was supportive of all of the work that we've done over the last 6 years. It's important for them to know, that parent in crisis needs some help also. And unless we can help that parent is not going to be able to help that child. And right. So it's so important that we address the mental health needs of that parent when they're coming to us with a situation where they feel like their child has been, severely mistreated or bullied. Even if it doesn't meet the definition of bullying, even if they have been mistreated, it's still worthy of being able to try our best to help them.
Yeah. And like, one of the important changes that needs to happen is for, parents and students to not just try to tough it out, that it really is important to ask for help and to talk and find out what the options are. And that's why, it's so important that y'all have these these trained folks to answer the phones and, do that intake process so that people can get heard. Cause it's too easy to get brushed off, or to say, there's so much more knowledge. The education aspect of what y'all are doing. There needs to be more knowledge out there about mental health, and less stigma about asking for help.
Absolutely. I mean, as human beings, we're born to connect with one another, and we need to come alongside a parent who's struggling with their child, whether it's the child who's the target or the child who's actually the perpetrator of the behavior. They're all children, and they all, parenting is one of the most difficult things in the world. And if we can come alongside someone with compassion, we may not exactly understand where they're coming from, but they just need somebody to walk alongside them. And that's so important when we're talking about these mental health issues, because there is such a stigma behind it, and it makes it difficult to talk about. But one of the things that we did last session, Inga, is we worked on a bill called SB 2050, and it requires school districts to have an anti-bullying and a school culture committee at every single campus. And it is the spirit behind that bill is that it would include parents, community members, students, educators, everybody coming together in partnership to address an issue, that is important to our young people, important to their development. Because, as we know, as time progresses and research is out there, we know that children who are the target and victims of peer abuse can now be considered an adverse childhood experience. And the more ACEs that a child has in their young life, the higher the chances that they have later on in life of having more serious physical and mental, as well as not being as satisfied with their job. And just there's a lot of research behind it. And so if we can be more preventive and stop it from happening in the first end, that's with education, awareness, empathy training, digital citizenship, character education. The more that we can do there, and if we can integrate that into our curriculum, I think we're going to have a better chance of being able to help more kids.
Yeah, yeah. And one thing I've learned about the San Antonio Charter Moms audience is that we have, it's primarily families and parents, and some have younger kids, but they need to know this now so they can get ready for middle school and high school when things get more intense. But also like we reach a lot of teachers and administrators at charter schools, and I want them to be aware of what David's Legacy Foundation does, because they can take the lead on establishing these committees, and talking about anti-bullying and talking about character education. So I'm talking to you all, like teachers, administrators. If you at your charter school, if you need these resources, put it up on the screen again. David's Legacy Foundation, wants to assist you. They have great resources and great people, and it's a very caring organization. You know, and if anyone listening is like the PTA mom or PTA dad, you can bring this up to your school and say, hey, there's a great organization that will assist us so that we can be part of this, this education and this advocacy. And then what the scholarship does is recognizing what these high school kids are doing, to educate each other and to lead these initiatives. And it's a great way to recognize what they're doing and draw attention to it, and hopefully encourage more of that in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned young families, and I'm a firm believer that it's got to start young. You can't, it's a lot more difficult to start in middle school and high school, but if you can start those conversations early on, you're going to have a much easier, conversations around your dinner table and in the car when you're driving them to school, and using every opportunity as you can to talk to them about these issues. We have social emotional learning lessons on our website. We've started with elementary school, just because we feel like that is that is the foundation of this work that we're doing. And eventually right now we're in the middle of working on our middle school social emotional learning lessons around bullying, that we're going to meet the health teaks that are going to be coming out for public school students in the fall of 2022.
Yeah. That's every time I learn more about David's Legacy Foundation, I'm just so impressed with like how many fronts you all are fighting against bullying and cyberbullying. And it's really important work. And I'm really grateful for your commitment to it, and how you've rallied, family members and community members, and, donors for the scholarship, and, the folks at Legal Aid, just working on so many fronts, because we really need to protect our children. And it's a really tough job.
It is. And I think that a lot of people recognize, if you're online, which most people are online these days, and if you're on social media, you're going to see a lot of vitriolic, angry people with not a lot of patience. It's gotten a lot worse since COVID. And our young people are seeing that. So having conversations around what you're seeing out there, and showing them certain things that are age appropriate, and letting them think about that is so important. I had one of the young people that we actually have worked with sent me a text the other day, and she said, Mrs. Molak, did you know that there's this new software app out there called Yik Yak, and you need to tell all your parents to make sure that their kids are not on it, because it is a terrible cyberbullying platform. And so to me, that was a win for David's Legacy Foundation, that young person recognized. She's a freshman in college right now. She recognized the importance of protecting our younger people against these terrible social media apps that are anonymous, not created for good. So we've just got to continue to have these conversations.
Yeah. And we can't keep them offline. Well, we can keep them offline for a while, but at some point we need to transition them to being online, but doing it in a way where they are good citizens, and they act with kindness, whether it's in real life or in cyberspace, that they always need to bring the kindness with them.
Right. There's no difference between online and offline life anymore for young people.
Yeah.
We may not understand it as adults, but this is the way that it's, this is their life, especially for our, high schoolers.
Yeah.
And
It's
college,
really true.
even college students that we work with will tell us, that it is a very dark and dangerous place out there on the internet. There are a lot of places that they can go very easily that are, not for young people's eyes.
Yeah.
Really not for anybody's eyes, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. But that's where, I guess that's the message for the charter moms audience of, especially parents with younger children. It's just, it's not the same world that it was. Of course, okay. When I was in college, I visited a website for the first time. It was the Library of Congress website, and it took about 6 minutes for the page to load. So, so like families with young children now, maybe they were using MySpace or the early days of Facebook, right? And when people were more optimistic about what social media would be like, and they may not be aware of how young people are using social media now, or even things like texting, or that there's just it. Yeah, so I guess it's a wake up call for me. My kids are not on social media yet. They're 12 and 14, but they're not on social media yet. But at some point they will be. But I'm going to need to go alongside them and and coach them and just keep an eye on what they're doing, because it's not something you can just expect somebody who's inexperienced and impulsive to know how to make good choices when they have that much power at their fingertips.
Absolutely right. Think about it like how you're going to be when they start to drive.
Oh, I'm not ready to think about that yet.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be lessons. There's going to be a class. You're going to sit with them in the car for almost a year while they're practicing. You wouldn't just hand them over the keys to your car without all of that preparation work. And so, encourage young parents when it comes time for your child to get on social media. And I do have a lot of parents who've said, my child is safe because they're not on social media. But if you let your child ever go to another child's home, or even at school, if phones are allowed, there is a very good chance that your child is going to experience something on social media, even if they do not have that phone themselves. Yeah. And so you're never, it's extremely difficult to protect 100%. That's why having those conversations early on is so critical to build that trust, and to always let them know that they can come to you no matter what, and that you're not going to take their phone away from them, and that they can confide in you, and that you'll be able to talk about it with them, about what it was that they experienced online.
Yeah, that is so important. Wow. Well, it's always really powerful to get to talk to you, Maurine, and I'm so grateful for your courage and all the work that you and your family are doing. And so I kind of want to bring it back to the scholarship thing in particular. So I really want people to know about the David Molak Kindness Scholarship, that they should go to the website, davidslegacy.org. That's where there's more information about it, how to apply. And the key thing is that the deadline is March 31st, right?
Yes, that's correct. And if you have a contact at a secondary charter school, if you could send them the information on our behalf and let them know that we would love to have them nominate a student or two, or however many, and get it out to their graduating seniors so that they can self-nominate as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm really grateful that, it's to recognize what seniors in public schools are doing, including the traditional public schools and the charter schools, because it's really important that we raise awareness in as many settings as possible.
Yes. Thank you so much, Inga. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Maurine. Okay. Best wishes to you and your team.
Thank you so much. Y'all take care.
Okay. Bye.